Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I really appreciate the ability of all of you to stay here until 8 o'clock in the evening. So, mashallah, you deserve a prize yourself. So I will discuss the link between obesity and diabetes, or how this issue is very important for us. After all, the vast majority of our diabetes patients are obese. So simply, when you think of, I come from Alexandria and I currently work in Dubai. If you were to go to photos of Alexandria or Dubai 60 years ago and photos of the current situation of either of these cities, you will understand why obesity has become a very serious problem over the last number of years. It's a part of the industrialized approach, the civilization, the modern approach. Everything now is through the income. Everything is with less physical activity. Food is available in supermarkets all over the year. Portions are becoming so big, and of course the junk food have risen, and that obviously has affected the metabolic parameters. And we sit and watch TV or our phone or our iPad now, and we hardly do anything. So we end up with diabetes and obesity. This is a study that was conducted in Alexandria a few years back. I had the pleasure to be one of the co-authors. It's a very true reflection of the whole country, because Alexandria, as you know, is a big city. It also has the rural areas as well as the Bedouin areas. So overall, the configuration of Alexandria matches anywhere else in the country. And the prevalence of diabetes in females is 19%, in males is 12.7%, overall is 16.8%. So that's obviously a huge prevalence. When you go to the data of that particular study and you look into the BMI distribution, and you will find that people with a BMI that is not in the overweight or the obese category is only 19%. So 81% of the population of the study had a BMI above 25, which means they are either overweight or obese. I had this sent to me. I don't know whether it's published as a document or not, but the initiative of 100 million Sahha, 100 million persons health for the non-communicable disease, is saying that the 23 million persons in Egypt has a BMI between 25 to 30, and 35% has a BMI above 30%. So 75% of the population are either overweight or obese. Of course, this is a massive figure. When you look into forget about the smoking and the other things, but look into the why we have this. Vigorous activity. 96% of women do not do it, and 63% of men do not engage in vigorous activity. Consuming less than 5 servings of fruit and vegetables. 90% in both. Although as a country we have lots of vegetables and lots of fruits, but nowadays it's the bread and the rice and the meat or the chicken which becomes the main recipe for the food. And consequently, we have that level of obesity. We did a WHO standards of survey, a household survey in Dubai, and here is the data based on age groups. So as you can see, younger people have a lot of green, older people have a lot of yellow and red. Yellow is overweight and red is obesity. So as you can see, even in young people between the age of 18 to 29, only 65% have a normal body weight, normal BMI. So obviously it is scary. And here is the split between genders. Over in Dubai, there is no major difference between men and women when it comes to overweight or obesity. Obesity was a lot more in ladies than men. So the true driving force for this very high prevalence of diabetes, that you've seen the data from Alexandria and the data from 100 million health in Egypt, the overlap is so strong. So obesity is the driving force of diabetes in many countries. Of course, the fat distribution varies between men and women, the apple shape versus the pear shape, and of course, we all know that fat cells are not simple inert cells. They can go for liposuction and that's it. Fat cells are a very important source of health issues, health-related problems. Large insulin-resistant adipocytes increase adrenergic receptors, they cause insulin-mediated anti-lipolysis, and they cause an increase in catecholamine-mediated lipolysis. And of course, the small intensity sensitive adipocyte do the opposite, which is reducing the adrenergic receptors. So all of this can lead to increase in fatty acids, and this can lead to fatty liver infiltration of fat into the pancreas as well, can lead to hypertension, and can lead to dyslipidemia. So clearly, central obesity is very much linked to cardiovascular risk factors and consequently cardiovascular disease. When we look into central obesity for the data that we had in the household survey, you will find that central obesity was high in 58% of the nationals and 30% of the non-nationals. Perhaps it is related to the style of jobs. Many of the non-nationals are in labor camps and workers, so they are a lot more active. Again, when you look into a third parameter to measure obesity, the waist-hip ratio. And clearly, here is ladies are concerned about how they appear. Men, they don't care if they have a big belly, عنده كرش مش مشكلة، المهم المحفظة. So they don't care too much about and that's why you see that the waist-hip ratio is higher in males compared to females. This is another important data from Abu Dhabi. 58,000 persons took part in this survey, and again, the obesity, central obesity, is very much linked to age. You can see from being young to being older, it's going high. But it's not just about the age, it's about the sad scenario that again, 18 to 29 years old, a sizable proportion of them have central obesity. This is the age where they should be very active and slim. So if already a third of them are with central obesity, then you need to think what will be their situation when they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Why that is the case? Look into the data of physical activity and prediabetes. In those who are physically active, in orange, they have half the prevalence of prediabetes. So the issue is not just about the weight. The issue is about what are we doing. And as I mentioned in the lecture earlier about the guidelines, doing physical activity even for 6 minutes can protect 4 years of a person's diabetes life. So why that has happened? I think globally we have a problem to recognize obesity as a health problem in many people's eyes because it's so much in abundance. So it's kind of, that's the norm. Second is the type of food that we started to change our mind and start eating. The quantity of the food as well, and the sedentary lifestyle. So it's not just about the food, but about the lifestyle as well. And this picture is a classic for someone on a nice comfortable chair and eating the wrong type of foods in big quantities. So, of course, as Professor Amr have mentioned, obesity is a complex multifactorial disease. It starts in the brain and has an effect on so many important organs. Adipose tissues, the pancreas, the gut, genetics, and sometimes it's related to some medication that we take. At the end of the day, it is the balance between, I might have inherited the wrong genes, but if my environment as well is wrong, then I have no chance. I cannot change my genetics, but I can change my environment. So, very interesting point. 68% of people with obesity do not see themselves as obese. So, even in the perception of the person himself or herself, they're not too much concerned about it. Although 88% of healthcare professionals recognize obesity as a health issue. So weight loss is extremely linked to better outcome for people with diabetes. So when you look into who's eligible for weight loss, you will see that less than 2% of 650 million persons with obesity are actually treated with anti-obesity medication. This is a survey that we've done in Dubai and we've published 3 years ago about the household habits. And exercise is essential for all of us. Any type of physical activity, not just aerobic but anaerobic exercise as well. And it is well recognized that 10,000 steps a day would prevent diabetes and consequently will also prevent obesity. And on the iPhone, you can calculate your steps and it's clear it's there. When we looked in the survey of how many people are doing moderate intensity physical activity, and that was defined as 10 minutes. 10 minutes of spending doing different types of physical activity as part of work or as part of housework. So just 10 minutes of part of the routine life. That's not done daily except by 17% of the population. When we asked the further step about 10 minutes of physical exercise, that was only done by 5% of the population of Dubai. So when you go deeper again and you ask people what do they eat, the 5 servings of fruit or veg, the vast majority do not do it on a daily basis, do not have the right amount of fruit and veg. The food is so much rich in rice, in bread, and other things as well. So consequently, when you check, is it part of a culture? Well, actually it's not. Because whether it was for the Emiratis or for the other Arabs or Asians living in Dubai, we're all the same. The percentage of people having the right amount of fruit and veg was no more than 36%. And here is the percentage again of those engaged in physical activity. If you widen the scope a bit, and this was a survey we've done for Ramadan fasting. So we asked people about physical activity, and that was across of the Middle East and North Africa region. So whole Middle East from Maghreb to Pakistan. And as you can see, those who say themselves they are doing high level of physical activity, 4.4%. Moderate, 31%. Which means that 64% are either inactive or low level of activity. So certainly we need to do better. We need to exercise. We need to do much better than this guy walking the dog while he's in his car. Does this reflect on obesity, on diabetes prevalence? Have a look here. Look into the prevalence of diabetes in those who are with normal weight, 8%. Obese, 24.7%. So that's 3 times higher. So if this group is active and this group is inactive, the difference in obesity will be 3 times higher in the group. So, sorry, this is based on obesity. When you look into the exercise, it's exactly the same. I come from Alexandria, and as you all know, there is Sporting Club and Smoha Club. Sporting Club was established in 1890, and Smoha Club was established in 1949. Now you can imagine the population of Egypt in 1890 was how much? We still don't have any other clubs. So the population has increased about 5-6 times, but we still have the same space for sports activity. So with increase of the population, we should have as much as the houses, as much as the places where people can go and do physical activity. Why this is important? Because the level of diabetes in those who are active is 8.8%. In those who are not active is 20%. So it's a mirror image to obesity. If you're obese, the prevalence is 3 times. If you're inactive, the prevalence of diabetes is also 3 times. So we definitely need to start doing physical activity. There's lots of challenges. A challenge to motivate people, challenge to educate about the change, challenge to sustain that change. The Look Ahead study was extremely important study, and the buzzword in the study was in red: maintaining. Maintaining is the main point. The Look Ahead study, the first year was the active arm of the study, and then it was carry on, try to do it if you can. They stopped the intervention, and as you can see, in the first year everything improved. The estimated mean weight reduced, the waist circumference reduced, the physical fitness increased, and the glycated hemoglobin reduced. But then after 12 months, when they stopped the intervention, it gradually went back. So the buzzword is maintaining the physical activity, maintaining the process, maintaining the program. So for those who maintain the program, the subgroup who maintain the program, you can see here that they have sustained 9% of the weight loss. So for those who say it's waste of time, physical and behavior change is waste of time, well, it's not really waste of time. We just need to provide people with the tools. It's not good enough to say to the patient, you need to lose weight. You need to give the patient the program, the tools to know how to change, what to change, where can I do the physical activity, how can I do it, what type of physical activity, and so on. The latest ADA-ASD guidelines, which I presented earlier this afternoon, exactly talk about this. Set a goal with your patient. That's number 1. Agree with your patient on a goal. Provide them with the comprehensive advice about the nutrition, about the eating patterns, and about the physical activity. And then consider medication or bariatric surgery. And when you choose the medication, you need to choose medication that for people with diabetes would be efficacious, highly efficacious for glycemic control and highly efficacious for weight reduction. And they give us an idea about what are these medications and what level of reduction. What type of weight reduction we require? A minimum of 5%. If you go up to the 10-15, then you could end up with remission of diabetes. That's what was observed in some of the studies. And this is the latest guidelines published just 1 month ago. So, newer therapy, the GLP-1s, with the 2nd and 3rd generation, even the higher doses of semaglutide, as in step 2, or tirzepatide, they are able to reduce the weight of people with diabetes massively. My lecture is about people with diabetes. Of course, these drugs have very good studies in obese non-diabetics as well. But my focus in my lecture is about diabetes. So, Mr. Chairman, Professor Rafat, ladies and gentlemen, the prevalence of obesity, pre-diabetes, and diabetes in our region is an epidemic. An epidemic that is there, not just now that COVID is over and the epidemic is over. The epidemic of diabetes and obesity is here. The prevalence of these conditions is strongly related to certain factors, such as age, eating habits, and physical activity. I cannot stop my age getting older, but I can change my eating habits and my physical activity. Urgent structured programs, and it's a structured program, not simply go and walk or cut this. It needs to be a structured program for the large scale of the population is massively required. And of course, lack of physical activity is a key. It's difficult to say no to the type of food, but perhaps it's a bit easier to go and walk 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes every day. Thank you all.